Going to do Star Saga at some point. Shut up. Hello, another video for Kings of War 3rd edition, and this one is about the forces of nature. Now, the forces of nature like to keep things in balance. They are of every force, including the upcoming Uncharted Empires 3rd edition book. The forces of nature are the most neutral force. You can't get a more neutral faction in the game. Probably in any game, I'd argue. So basically how they work is, if evil, for instance, if the evil forces are growing a bit too powerful, then the forces of nature will go to the forces of good, start working with them to try to redress the balance. Vice versa, if the forces of good are going too well, then they'll start to grow a bit darker, start to maybe eat a few thousand peasants, start to redress the balance, as it were. There's a lot of various different races. There's also a tier 2 a soul band in. They've got a lot of earth, wind and fire in there. Yeah. So it starts on page 285 if you're following in the big book. And starting with the Army Special upgrade on page 285 is the Frenzied Otter. Yes, they are Frenzied Otters. So once per game, when the unit rolls to damage in melee, you may choose to re-roll up to 3 dice that score a natural unmodified 1. This unit's Frenzied Otter is then destroyed and cannot be used again for the remainder of the game. Basically, they send the otter out. It might do a bit of damage, and then the otter is cut down by someone. Starting with the infantry, on page 285, we have the Naiad Ensnarers. Speed 5, melee 4+, defense 3. Yeah, Naiads are a bit squishy, but they do make up for it. Troop, 10 attacks, nerve, 911, 90 points. Regiment, 12 attacks, nerve, 1315, and 140 points. Horde, 25 attacks, nerve, 2022, and 230 points. They have Ensnare, Pathfinder, and Regeneration 4+. You can give them a Frenzied Otter for 5 points, because why not? These are pretty good. They might not look at it on the face of it because their defense is pretty bad, but their attacks aren't bad. They're slightly above standard, I'd say, looking at it. The nerve is pretty standard, but they've got Ensnare, which means in close combat they are horrendous to hit unless you've got certain magic items and such like. They've got Pathfinder, which helps move around terrain, and they've also got Regeneration 4+, which means they ain't going anywhere pretty quickly, so they're pretty solid, I'd say. Next we have the Heavy Infantry on page 285. The Salamander Primes then. One of them could be Optimus, I suppose. Speed 5, melee 4+, defense 5. These are your heavy hitting infantry then. Troop, 10 attacks, nerve, 1012, 90 points. Regiment, 12 attacks, nerve, 1416, 135 points. Horde, 25 attacks, nerve, 2123, and 225 points. They ain't cheap, but the nerve and the attacks kinda go for it. Otherwise, they've got crushing strength 1, and for free you can decrease their defense to 4, but increase their crushing strength to 2. There's arguments for both things. Do you want high defense infantry, or do you want infantry that can possibly kill a greater earth elemental with no problems? I mean, it's a free upgrade, so take your pick. Lastly, for the heavy infantry is the Hunters of the Wild. Speed 5, melee 3+, defense 5. Troop 12 attacks, nerve 10 12, 105 points. Regiment 15 attacks, nerve 14 16, 160 points. They've got Pathfinder and Scout. So the Hunters of the Wild, I can kind of see the point to these. They've got a few more attacks than most troops and regiments have. Their nerve is about the same, but they hit on 3s. I suppose they're there to get forward and do flank manoeuvres. The problem is there are other faster stuff that can do flank manoeuvres a bit better. So if you want a cheap outflanking unit, yes. Otherwise, there's better out there. Ranged infantry then, on page 285. The Naiad Heart Piercers. Heart Piercers. These are regular. Speed 5, melee 5+, ranged 4+, defense 3+. Troop 8 attacks, nerve 9 11 and 120 points. Regiment 10 attacks, nerve 13 15 and 160 points. They've got regeneration 4+. They've got harpoon guns, which are 18-inch range. They've got and also piercing 1 and steady aim. You can also give them a frenzied otter for 5 points. These are pretty good, though I'd possibly keep them as a troop. The amount of attacks you're getting out of it, I don't feel warrants the extra 40 points you're spending on these. The thing is, they're regenerating on 4s. They've got harpoon guns, which you can move and shoot with them at difficulty. They shoot on 4s, and they've got piercing 1. With 8 attacks, 120 points, that's not bad. So, yeah, I'd keep them as troops, to be honest. But I can see the reason for taking them as regiments. It just feels a bit... It just doesn't feel necessary to me. Next we have the cavalry units on page 285. Centaur Brave Striders. Speed 8, melee 3+, defense 4+. Attack troop 6 attacks, nerve 11 13 and 105 points. Regiment 12 attacks, nerve 14 16 and 160 points. They've got Crushing Strength 1, Pathfinder and Thunderous Charge 1. You can take a Frenzied Otter for 5 points. I can just imagine a little tiny otter just riding on the back of him going... Why not? These aren't bad. They are basically a cheap outriding unit. Yes, they've not got Scout, but at speed 8 you've got a pretty good charge distance, and you've got Crushing Strength 1 already and Thunderous Charge 1. So if you get that charge, which you've got a good chance of getting it, you can pulverise a fair few things. And then we have the Centaur Brave Striders. Speed 8, melee 4+, range 5+, defense 3+. Troop 6 attacks, nerve 11 13, 105 points. Regiment 12 attacks, nerve 14 16, 165 points. They've got Nimble, Pathfinder and Thunderous Charge 1. They've also got short bows, which are 18-inch range and steady aim, and they could take a Frenzied Otter for 5 points. I did say in a earlier recording of this video that I couldn't see the point in Bray Hunters because they've got worse melee and they're shooting on 5s. But here's the thing, they've got Nimble, and 18-inch range on a cavalry unit is nothing to sniff about, even though they're hitting on 5s. The problem is, though, I would take them as a regiment. 6 attacks hitting on 5s is not worth anything, especially when you've not got any piercing around like that. You need to have plenty of attacks. 10 or more, if you need 5 hits, is the bare minimum. And really then you need to question whether you need it or not. However, there's no mistaking that because they've got Nimble and Pathfinder, they do have slightly more manoeuvrability than the Brave Striders. So, the large infantry then, on page 286. There's about 5 of them, so let's begin. The 4 Shamblers then. Speed 6, melee 4+, defense 5+. Regiment, 9 attacks, nerve, dash 14, 120 points. Horde, 18 attacks, nerve, dash 17, and 200 points. Crushing Strength 1, Pathfinder, Scout, Shambling. These are your best large infantry for going through woods and stuff like that. They've also got Scout, which none of the others do, so you can move them about a bit before the game begins, which is great. They aren't the quickest of the large infantry the forces of nature have, but they are fairly decent though. But let's see the others. Fire Elementals then. Speed 6, melee 4+, defense 5+. Regiment, 9 attacks, nerve, dash 14, 130 points. Horde, 18 attacks, nerve, dash 17, 220 points. Crushing Strength 2, Pathfinder, Shambling, Vicious in melee. These are your very offensive large infantry, well, elementals, whatever you want to call it. They've got the best crushing strength. They've also got vicious, which reroll ones to wound in close combat, which is nice. Other than that, they're pretty much similar sort of thing to the forest shamblers, except cost a few more points. Air Elementals, speed 10, melee 3+, defense 4+. Regiment, 9 attacks, nerve, dash 14, 130 points. Horde, 18 attacks, nerve, dash 17, 220 points. They've got Fly, Nimble, Pathfinder and Shambling. They are not bad. You could say they're a outflanking unit because they've got Nimble and Pathfinder and Fly, which means they can go speed 10 over stuff, or when they charge they go 20 inch. The downside of them, oh yeah, they hit on 3s. The downside of them is that the defense is 4 and they've got no crushing strength, which all other large infantry of the forces of nature have. So they're a bit softer, but they hit on 3s rather than 4s, so that does make up a little bit. Don't put them at the really hard stuff unless you're outflanking. If you're outflanking, great. If you're hitting them from the front, not good. Water Elementals then. Speed 7, melee 4+, defense 5+. Regiment, 9 attacks, nerve, dash 14, 130 points. Horde, 18 attacks, nerve, dash 17, 220 points. Crushing Strength 1, regeneration 5+, Shambling, Strider. So they can move over terrain without penalty at all. They've also got regeneration 5+, which really does help. They're also at speed 7, which the extra inch for movement and charges is nothing to laugh about. Especially you at the back there. These are possibly my favourite elementals just because the regeneration, when I played them last time, worked really well. Not to say regeneration is the only thing they've got, but these are your heavy going large infantry. The air elementals, your outflanking ones. The forest shamblers are your scouting for ones that are alright. The fire ones are your most offensive ones. The water elementals are your ones that will go at it for a couple of rounds more than the others. Unless you count the earth elementals, of course, but they are the slowest. So, the earth elementals, speed 5, melee 4+, defense 6+. Regiment, 9 attacks, nerve, dash 15, 130 points. Horde, 18 attacks, nerve, dash 18, 220 points. They've got Brutal, Crushing Strength 1, Pathfinder and Shambling. These are most defensive. The thing is, you've got the water elementals that can regenerate damage, and then you've got these which have got defense 6. They also hit pretty hard because, well, they've got Brutal, which really hurts no matter what you do. And to be honest, they're the same points cost as any other elemental of the large infantry variety, so they are fairly decent points wise. The weakest ones I'd say is the air elementals, but I can see the point of that flanking. With the earth elementals, you are going to need someone to babysit them because they are so slow. So the Swarm on page 286. The Woodland Critters, which are an irregular unit. So on things like the Naiad sprues, you get the little frenzied otters, and you could have things that that's size like little dogs, goats, foxes, wolves. Yeah, wolves would be too big. Little animals. Speed 6, melee 5+, defense 2+. Regiment 12 attacks, nerve 911, 80 points. Horde 24 attacks, nerve 12 14, 130 points. They've got fly, nimble, pathfinder, vicious in melee. Okay, I suppose it's more like birds. I suppose it could be foxes and whatnot. The birds can carry them on their backs, or it could be little like nymphs and sprites and things like that, I suppose. I'd probably never take them, but they've got quite a few attacks and they're cheap. The large cavalry then, on page 286. There's 2 of them, and the first one is Scorchwings. No model for them yet, but we'll see. They could be like pterodactyl things or small phoenixes, that sort of thing, I suppose. Excuse me. They're irregular, by the way. Speed 10, melee 3+, range 4+, defense 3+. Regiment 6 attacks, nerve 11 13, 120 points. Horde 12 attacks, nerve 14 16, 200 points. They've got fly, nimble, pathfinder and furious charge 1. They've also got a range attack which is a fire sparks, 18-inch range and steady aim. I can see the point of taking these a hell of a lot. They are quick. They've got nimble and pathfinder, which really helps. They've got thunderous charge and the hit on 3s, which in close combat really helps as long as you get the charge. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck a little bit. They've also got the fire sparks, which yes, it doesn't have any piercing, but they hit on 4s and 6 attacks on large cavalry. Not bad. I'd probably take them as a horde. Otherwise, I think they're going to die pretty quickly. The Naiad Worm Riders. Speed 8, melee 3+, defense 4+. Regiment 9 attacks, nerve 12 14, 130 points. Horde 18 attacks, nerve 15 17, 220 points. They've got crushing strength 1, pathfinder and regeneration 4+. These are nice. I am told by my friend who I got a box of these for his birthday, I think. They are a bugger to build because there's so many bits of the worm to build. There's so many bits of the rider to build. But apart from that, they are nice looking models. If you've got the patience to build them, go for it. They look amazing. And the stats are pretty good as well. The defense is a bit low, I grant you that. And they haven't got crushing strength 2, which I thought they would be. They're on giant sea snakes. Come on. But they've got a lot of attacks. The nerve isn't bad. And they hit on 3s and they regenerate. So they are going to stay for quite a while. Here be monsters on page 287. The Beast of Nature then. Speed 7, melee 3+, defense 5+. 1 attack, nerve 15 17, 150 points. Crushing strength 2, pathfinder, vicious. You can give it a ranged attack which is Noxious Mist. It's 12-inch range with 10 attacks, hits on 4s and has got steady aim for 15 points. Not bad. It's got no piercing but 10 attacks hitting on 4s. It's pretty good. Upgrade with wings, increasing speed to 10 and gaining fly and nimble for 40 points. This you could combo with the ranged attack so you can go really far and poison around and get a free turn. It's all pretty good. It's expensive. It's an extra 55 points, so you're looking at 205 points to do it. But defensive 5 hitting on 3s, that's not bad. Increase it attacks to 7 for 15 points. Now you're making it 220 points. Unless you want a cheap Beast of Nature, I would honestly do it. 220 points for all that isn't bad. I mean, 10 attacks, always hitting on 4s when you move and shoot, unless cover and whatnot. And you've got wings, so cover might not be an issue because you're height 5. And you've got 7 attacks in close combat, hitting on 3s and crushing strength 2. That's not bad. And you've got vicious, which means because it's not bracketed for melee, works with the noxious mist as well. I think it's pretty decent. The next one is the Greater Air Elemental. Speed 10, melee 3+, defense 4+. 10 attacks, nerve, dash 18, 108 points. Fly, nimble, pathfinder, shambling, furious charge. Thunderous charge, 1. Wind blast 6 for 25 points, lightning bolt 3 for 20 points. I don't see the point of it whatsoever. For an extra 40 points, which might seem a lot, you are getting the Beast of Nature with all the upgrades that I've just mentioned. You might as well do that, because the Greater Elemental is just all hot air, pardon the pun. Wind blast, I can't see the point of. Surely you want it closer to you than further away from you. Lightning bolt 3. Yes, it's got piercing 1, but so have the naiads. Greater Fire Elemental. The Greater Fire Elemental and the Greater Air Elemental, spellcaster rank 0, by the way. Speed 6, back to the Fire Elemental. Speed 6, melee 4+, defense 5+. 8 attacks, nerve, dash 18, 175 points. Crushing strength 3, pathfinder, shambling, vicious in melee. And it's got fireball 8. Considering it's only 5 points less than the Greater Air Elemental, this is pretty good. Yes, it's got shambling, only moves 6 inch, but it's got fireball 8, so you can toss her through them before you actually crumple into your opponent. It's also crushing strength 3 with 8 attacks hitting on 4s. That is going to hurt. I think they're pretty decent. Greater Water Elemental. Speed 7, melee 4+, defense 5+. 8 attacks, nerve, dash 18, 108 points. Crushing strength 2, regeneration 5+, shambling and strider. It's a toss-up between, do you want a Greater Water Elemental that can keep going a bit longer, or do you want the Greater Fire Elemental that is really, really offensive? Either's a good option. Or do you want the Beast of Nature that is a good all-rounder at everything? Pegasus, excuse me, is our final monster. Speeds 10, melee 3+, defense 4+. 3 attacks, nerve, 10, 12, 80 points. Fly, pathfinder, furious charge 1. 80 points, that's... You can get 2 Pegasus for 1 Greater Fire Elemental. I can kind of see the point to these. The thing is, I would take 2 of these over 1 Greater Air Elemental. Reason being, it's more for your opponent to watch out for. If there's 1 Greater Air Elemental, then your opponent's going to be concentrating on that more. If there's 2 of these, they're going to have to watch out both ways. So the Titans then, on page 287. The Greater Earth Elemental. Speed 6, melee 4+, defense 6+. So the Titans then, on page 287. The Greater Earth Elemental, speed 6, melee 4+, defense 6+. 12 attacks, nerve, dash 19, 230 points. Brutal, crushing strength 3, shambling, strider. He is ridiculous. Remember what I said about the Beast of Nature? It's basically a basic Beast of Nature. Yes, it isn't as accurate in close combat, but it's tougher, it's got a hell of more attacks, and its nerve is better. So this one is basically one that will hurt a lot and will stay a lot. The problem is it's a big model, so, well, big in stats and everything else. So it will have fire concentrated on it, but that's kind of the point. You want fire concentrated on it. You want it to either smash a few things or take all the damage, so everything else can do the damage for you. The Hydra then, this is an interesting one. Speed 6+, melee 4+, defense 5+. 5 attacks, nerve 16, 18, 150 points. Crushing strength 2, pathfinder, regeneration 5+. It's got a multiple heads rule, which says, in addition to the basic 5 attacks, the Hydra has a number of additional attacks equal to its current points of damage. This can be quite interesting. You can have it healing up, and any that's left over, give it more attacks. You could combo this with the Greater Earth Elemental, have this going forward a bit, and have the Hydra next to it. Does your opponent concentrate fire on the Greater Earth Elemental, and that's kind of one of the things it's designed to do, or do you have people concentrate fire on the Hydra, bearing in mind if it does get into charge range, it's going to have a hell of a lot of attacks once it's getting there. Heroes then, starting on page 288, starting with the Druid. He is a infantry hero, spellcaster rank 1. Speed 5, melee 5+, defense 4+. 1 attack, nerve 10, 12, 65 points. Individual, inspiring, pathfinder. Got heal 2 as a basic spell starting. Options: mount on a forest steed, increasing speed to 9 and changing to hero cavalry for 25 points. Not bad, and considering some of the stuff, might be a good option. Bane Chant 2 for 20 points. Lightning Bolt 2 for 10 points. Yeah. Surge 4 for 10 points. Not bad. Wind Blast 4 for 15 points. Yeah. He's not bad. You're basically wanting the Bane Chant and the Surge. The Lightning Bolt is a bit meh because it's so small. Anything less than Lightning Bolt 5, it's just not worth bothering with. Wind Blast, considering what they're designed to do, no. So the next one is the Gladewalker Druid, heavy infantry hero, spellcaster rank 2. Speed 5, melee 5+, defense 4+. 1 attack, nerve 12, 14, 90 points. Individual, inspiring, pathfinder, has heal 4 as a starting spell. Excuse me. Mount on a forest steed, increasing speed to 9 and changing to hero cavalry for 25 points. Not bad. Makes it a bit expensive, but not bad. Fireball 8 for 25 points. Hex 3 for 15 points. Not bad. Surge 8 for 30 points, or free if it replaces heal. Excuse me. Blizzard 2, and you can only have one of these in your army for 20 points. I would rather take the Gladewalker Druid. Yes, he's more expensive, but he's got more. You've got Surge 8, and you've got heal 4. If you take both, you are 120 points. Thing is, though, the Druids can be used to Surge Forge your elementals. Surge 4 is not bad, but it's on a 4+. While Surge 8, you are getting them really close, maybe within charge distance. The Centaur Chief. Speed 8, melee 3+, defense 4+, range 4+. 4 attacks, nerve 11, 13, 110 points. Crushing strength 2, individual, inspiring, centaurs only. Mighty, pathfinder. Gain a frenzied otter for 5 points, because why not? Gain the range attack, short bow, 18-inch range, range 4+, so already got it, okay, for 10 points. I take the short bow, 4 attacks, shooting at 4s, why not? I like Centaur Chiefs because they're fairly cheap, they're fast, they hit pretty well, and now they've got Mighty. They are still a roadblock in your opponent's path. The Salamander Veteran is a heavy infantry hero. Speed 5, melee 5, 3+, defense 5+. 4 attacks, nerve 11, 13, 65 points. Pretty cheap standard so far. Crushing strength 2, individual, inspiring salamander only, so only inspires salamander primes. Guiding flame, which can only have one of these in your army. Gain aura, brackets elite, melee for salamanders only, for 20 points. This unique upgrade cannot be taken in conjunction with a magical artifact. I can see the point, because it still makes it under 100 points. So, reroll and hit in melee for salamanders might not be a bad option. The thing is, considering what else you've got for the force of nature, that seems like it's kind of pointless considering what else you've got. The druid and likewise the salamander veteran, I can't see the point of, because there's stuff that does either stuff better or there's more important stuff to take. But I can see the point. Tree Hoarder is a monster hero, spellcaster rank 0. Speed 6, melee 3+, defense 6+. 9 attacks, nerve -18. 260 points. Crushing strength 3, inspiring, pathfinder, radiance of life, scout, strider, and has surge 8. This is basically a Glade Walker druid that has just been given the power and changed into He Branch. It's basically a more manoeuvrable earth elemental. It does the same thing. Slightly less attacks, slightly less nerve, but it inspires. It's got radiance life, so anyone within 6 gets a little bit of a healing. And it's got surge, so any lesser elementals or forest riders can go way further, or greater elementals for that matter. The Forest Warden then is a large infantry hero. Speed spellcaster rank 0. Speed 6, melee 3+, defense 5+. Attacks 3, nerve 11-13, 90 points. Crushing strength 2, nimble, pathfinder, scout, and has surge 4+. You are basically getting a cheaper version of the Tree Herder, and you are nearly getting 3 Forest Wardens for 1 Tree Herder. Thing is, the Tree Herder lasts longer, it's got better nerve, it hits harder, it's also got better surge. So I just use the points cost on the Tree Herder. But then again, saying that though, Surge 4, so if you do take 3 Forest Wardens, you've got 4 Surge 4, so you've got kind of Surge 8. Surge 12, should I say. So, I can see a point, I suppose. The Unicorn, Knot of Dundee. 120 points, not 200. Speed 10, melee 3+, defense 5+. 3 attacks, nerve 12-14, 120 points like I've just said. Crushing strength 1, individual, inspiring, pathfinder, thunderous charge 1. It's got heal 5, not bad. Upgrade with wings, losing individual and gaining fly and nimble, and changing to hero large cavalry for 25 points. Lightning bolt 5 for 20 points, or 3 if it replaces heal. Maybe. Wind Blast 5 for 20 points from here. Bastion 2, and you can only have one of these in your force for 20 points. I can see the point, because heal 5 is nothing to laugh about, and Lightning Bolt 5 also is nothing to laugh about. Giving it wings isn't a bad option. The only thing is, you're gaining nimble as well, so Lightning Bolt and wings is 45 points, so that's 165 points. That's getting expensive, but it is doing what it needs to do, so maybe I can see the point to it, is what I'm saying. But for 75 points less, you are getting a Glade Walker Druid with heal 4 standard. I suppose it depends what you want, really. I suppose it depends what you want. Naiad Stalker. He's an infantry hero. Speed 6, melee 3+, defense 4+, range 4+. 4 attacks, nerve 11-13, 95 points. Crushing strength 1, ensnare, individual, inspiring self only. He has harpoon, pathfinder, regeneration 4+, stealthy. Has harpoon gun, which is 18-inch range, piercing 1. Can take a frenzied otter for 5 points, because of course you can. If you want someone who's going to run around and annoy people, I can see the point. Problem is, a bloke, then again he's got stealthy and regeneration, so a little bloke running around peppering people with 4-shot harpoon gun with piercing 1, that's not a bad thing. Should have steady aim on the harpoon gun of the Night Stalker, because in the rulebook it doesn't. Round take. Lastly, for the heroes then, is the Naiad Worm Rider Centurion. Speed 8, melee 3+, defense 5+. 5 attacks, nerve 13-15, 160 points. It's a large cavalry hero, by the way. Crushing Strength 1, individual, nimble, pathfinder, regeneration 4+, and fury, thunderous charge 1. That's pretty good, considering you hit on 3s as well. The inspiring helps because you inspire everyone within 6. You've also got nimble and pathfinder, which, again helps a lot. And the regeneration is good. The only real downside is that you've only got 5 attacks, but having regeneration 4+ on a defense 5 thing is pretty decent. So the unique units on page 289. The Avatar of the Green Lady. Hero Infantry, Spellcaster rank 3. Speed 10, melee 5+, defense 5+. 1 attack, nerve 13-15, 185 points. Fly, individual, inspiring, regeneration 5+. Balance. At the start of each of your turns, you may choose for this unit to have either Cloak of Death or Radiance of Life. It's also got Heal 6. I wouldn't bother giving it Cloak of Death, because if you're getting that close to your enemy, you're doing something really, really wrong. I'd always give it Radiance of Life because you get Heal 6. So that unit you're targeting is getting a free, well, is getting essentially Heal 7 on it. Everyone else is getting a free wound off them within 6 of them. Within 6 of the Avatar. Pretty decent. That's really all she's there for. Other than that, I really can't see the point. Defense 5. Defense 5 is pretty good. I would have kept her at Defense 6 like in 2nd edition, but it is what it is. Curious then. Hero Infantry, Spellcaster rank 2. Speed 5, melee 5+, defense 4+. 1 attack, nerve 12-14, 80 points. Individual, inspiring, pathfinder. He's got solar staff. 24-inch range, 8 attacks. This attack always hits on 4+, regardless of modifiers. Pretty good. For each hit, roll to damage as normal. If 1 or more hits are scored, the target is disordered until the end of its next turn. The solar staff is then destroyed and cannot be used again for the remainder of the game. I can see the point, to be honest, actually. Always hits on 4, so even against Night Stalkers, there's a point. Fireball 6 for 20 points, Heal 4 for 30 points, Lightning Bolt 2 for 10 points, Surge 8 for 30 points. Maybe take Surge 8, I suppose. That makes it 110 points. Apart from that, I really can't see the point of him, to be honest. Chariot. Speed 10, melee 5+, defense 3+. 1 attack, nerve 12-14, 135 points. Fly, individual, inspiring, pathfinder. Static shock. After dealing damage with this unit's lightning bolt spell, you may choose to immediately cast Wind Blast on the target unit, where N, because it's not the same as normal Wind Blast, is the amount of damage inflicted with lightning bolt spell. So once you've cast lightning bolt, because it's lightning bolt 4, you can get a Wind Blast 4 off on an enemy, which isn't bad. Wind Blast 6 as well. It's there, I guess. She's better than Kiris. If you want to take one of them, take Chariot. I can't see the point of Kiris. Well, that solar staff's not bad against Night Stalkers, I suppose. Against anyone else, actually, it might be useful against heroes. because you are -1 hit against individuals. Apart from that, I can't see the point. So, the forces of nature then. They've got some fairly decent infantry, which are slightly more expensive than normal infantry. The ranged infantry, the heavy infantry, the normal infantry, and cavalry, slightly more expensive, even though they're a bit squishier. But they do serve a purpose. Everything in the forces of nature list, more than a lot of other forces, is meant to do specific roles. For instance, the different elementals. You've got the earth elementals that are there to take damage, and really take damage, and don't care. You've got the water elementals that can soak up damage and move a hell of a lot quicker. You've got the air elementals, which are good for outflanking, and you've got the fire elementals, which are your really offensive stuff. You've got the scorch wings, which can do outflanking and a bit of shooting if you're feeling saucy. You've got the beast of nature, which is a good all-rounder at everything. You've got the Naiad heart piercers, which are a good peppering ranged infantry unit. And you've then got things like the tree herder, which is a monster in combat, and it's also supporting your lesser shambling units to get them closer to the enemy and punch them in the face. So, like I said, everything has a point to it. It's meant to do one or two specific things. It's not meant to. You don't see a greater earth elemental doing outflanking manoeuvres unless your opponent's doing something wrong or you're being really, really clever. They are a good starting force. I would recommend not taking anything that's got Naiad in its name, only because their defense is a bit low. Start with things like the Salamander Primes, the Earth Elementals, and stuff like that, because you want it straightforward. But if you know what you're doing, you can really get some good stuff out of this force. I've played them before. I didn't win, but just play. You can just have an elemental force and have druids with great big afros. I suppose you could just have a load of druids just with guitars, drums, backing singers, and I think didn't one have a saxophone and a trumpet? I'm sure they did. Just to be the band, and then just have the fire elementals, earth elementals, and air elementals. But yeah, the models are great. Most of this stuff is out. Mantic's made most of these as models. The missing air elementals, they are the weakest, in my opinion. But yes, they are a good force. So that's it for now. Goodbye.